Ghirahim, the Demon Lord, right hand and sword spirit that serves the Demon King Demise. Ghirahim is known for being the most fabulous and sadistic of modern Zelda villains. His thirst for blood is only topped by his enormous ego and intense loyalty to his master. Ghirahim is a fan favorite for many reasons. He may very well be the most fleshed out and well-written Zelda villain of all time. Join me as we examine the incredible cast that helps bring this magical series to life. This is Zelda Character Study, and today we're looking at the Demon Lord Ghirahim. The first time we meet Ghirahim is in Skyview Temple. Link, our hero, is in the early hours of his quest to rescue Zelda. Ghirahim's own quest runs parallel to Link's. Ghirahim too is in pursuit of Zelda, but not for such benevolent reasons. Ghirahim knows that Zelda is the goddess Hylia reborn, and so he wants to find her and use her as a sacrifice to revive his master Demise. However, there's a magical door in the way that Ghirahim can't get past to reach where Zelda is. That's when Link comes in. Ghirahim, stuck in this room, decides to have a bit of fun. He knows as well just who Link is, and even this early recognizes the sword that Link carries as the goddess sword. Even this early on in the game, we get a great sense of Ghirahim's personality. When Link approaches, he actually puts his sword away, and is surprised that Link even survived the tornado earlier in the game. He speaks articulately, apologizing for being, quote, uncivil, and not introducing himself. He tells us he is Ghirahim, but prefers to be indulged with his full title, Lord Ghirahim. He's perfectly content to just chat away with Link, not even perceiving him to be a threat, despite the fact that Link is the goddess's chosen hero. It's not that Ghirahim doesn't recognize him as being this person, but he's so full of himself, so confident and sure of his own strength, that just by the fact that Link is human, he believes himself to be of superior standing. It's only when Link draws his sword that Ghirahim's demeanor changes. Now he willingly and openly expresses his anger about not being able to capture Zelda, and initiates the battle against Link. But even then, due to his belief that Link is lesser than he promises not to murder Link, but instead to use him as a punching bag to relieve his own stress. If the player calls upon Fi for a hint during the battle, even she will remark on his confidence, and states that he has yet to reveal his true power, which is spot on. During the battle, he initially won't even attack Link directly, instead attempting to catch Link's sword in his hand when Link strikes. Gameplay-wise, this almost certainly is the game giving us practice with these sword controls, but in universe, we can see this as a way of Ghirahim toying with Link, not unlike the way a cat will toy with a mouse. A cat doesn't see a mouse as a threat, and will sometimes let the mouse run around, just so that it can have fun catching the mouse again and again. It's only after Link manages to land a few hits on Ghirahim that he decides to actually draw his own sword, but even then he continues to toy with Link, teleporting around mischievously and striking. In the end, he doesn't even necessarily lose the battle. He just realizes that Zelda is no longer in the next room, so he doesn't see any point sticking around. He still sees Link as so little of a threat that he doesn't stay to kill him because it's just not worth his time, and so he leaves in search of Zelda once more. He may be bloodthirsty, but that doesn't mean he's without priorities. This may be the player's first encounter with Ghirahim, but as far as the actual story goes, he played a role in it even earlier on. The tornado that pulls Zelda to the surface was summoned by Ghirahim and was meant to capture Zelda and dispatch Link in one fell swoop, though this only half worked. Even then, it's shown during the credits that it pulled Zelda right to the sealed grounds on the surface where Demise was sealed, presumably so that Ghirahim could capture her here and perform his ritual this early on. That is, until Impa intervened and sent Zelda on her way. Even then, in this instance, we can see how cunning a planner that Ghirahim is. The next time the player will encounter Ghirahim is in the Earth Temple. He initially remarks how he forgets Link's name, probably probably another indication of how little he thinks of him, and continues to chatter away. He tells us that his underlings had captured Zelda, so he came over to retrieve her, but instead finds that Impa had helped Zelda escape. This angers him, as he doesn't like complications to his plans, and decides to release his anger on Link, so he summons a monster to kill Link and leaves, with even just the thought of Link in pain putting a spring in his step, as he says. It's also probable that he knew Zelda wouldn't be around at the Earth Spring for much longer, which is true as she leaves through a portal shortly after this. So it's likely that he left in order to try and head her off at the next location, which he does. We meet Ghirahim again in Lanayru Desert at the Gate of Time. He bursts through the rocks blocking the temple, immediately makes a barrier to block Link from intervening, and attacks Zelda. Impa shields her from his attacks, but it doesn't take much for him to break through her defenses, laughing as he does. But being so caught up in the moment, he lets his own magical barrier fade, allowing Link to intervene. This allows Impa and Zelda to escape, forever changing the way that Ghirahim perceives Link. No longer is he just a pest, he is now an inconvenience. He actually recalls Link's name here and states that he was soft on Link earlier. He also states that he would like to punish Link, but doesn't have time, instead promising that the next time they meet, he'll do more than beat Link senseless and will, quote, make the affair so excruciating that Link will deafen himself with the shrill sound of his own screams. Well, how's that for a colorful choice of words? We will again run into Ghirahim in the Ancient Cistern, though his encounter here doesn't do much to give us new information about his character. All he says really is that he's looking for clues about how to help him on his quest to revive the Demon King, and that he finds Link annoying. But then he just teleports away, and we don't see him again for a while. So let's just fast forward to the game's penultimate dungeon, the Fire Sanctuary, where the player will have to battle Ghirahim properly for a second time. When Link runs into him, it seems he's found those clues he was looking for in the form of these drawings. The very prospect of victory here, just the idea of finding Zelda, absolutely thrills him. An interesting detail in his dialogue here, he immediately recalls Link's name again this time, further showing how his perception of Link has changed. But he struggles to recall Impa's name. Earlier, he struggled to remember Link's name, until Link proved himself to actually be a threat. However, during his soul encounter with Impa, he had no problem breaking her defenses before Link intervened. So we can infer that he sees Impa as less important and less worth remembering. He hops around the room with his grand gesturing, expressing his excitement here about there being another Gate of Time. But he recalls first that he had made a promise about inflicting pain on Link, and offers to strike a deal. If Link reveals the Gate of Time's location, he will forgive and forget. But when Link refuses, Ghirahim doesn't hesitate before getting ready to battle. He scolds Link for his behavior and says he needs to be reprimanded. At this point, he starts discarding his cloak and altering his skin to be stronger than armor, referring to his, quote, supple skin and his own physique as exquisite, beautiful, and of pure form. A pretty clear and in-your-face showcase of just how vain he is. This line in particular is a pretty great one, saying that he's pretty much got it all, and that the only thing he lacks is mercy. During the battle, Ghirahim takes things more seriously. He increases his own defenses and attacks more aggressively. However, at the end of the battle, there is a second shift in Ghirahim's perception and mentality about Link. As Link comes out of the battle the victor, Ghirahim expresses clear anger and frustration. He says, "Enough of this foolishness. I am Ghirahim, Demon Lord," once more showing his belief that Link as a human shouldn't be of any threat to him, and that his own stature as a supposed Demon Lord should make it so that it doesn't even matter how powerful Link or his sword is. He insults Link, calling him a filthy scamp, stating that Link has awakened a wrath in him that will burn for eons, and swears revenge, saying that he will, quote, drag Link into an eternity of torment. Then he briefly regains his composure and leaves. There is only one last encounter with Ghirahim. After Link obtains the Triforce and uses it to destroy Demise, Ghirahim shows up to ruin our happy resolution. Showing his cunning, he opportunistically captures Zelda only moments after she had awakened from her 1,000-year slumber. He kicks Groose and Impa to the side, once again perceiving them to be no more than pests, even remarking that Groose's hair makes him want to vomit. And then he hauls Zelda off to the past, where he begins his ritual to revive Demise. Knowing that Link won't be far behind, he sets up barricades and summons hordes and hordes of bokoblins to try and buy himself more time. He threatens his own minions here, saying not to fear Link, but to fear his wrath if they fail to stop him, even showing blatant disregard for their lives and safety, saying he doesn't care if the whole lot of them get lodged on the end of Link's blade. Of course, they do fail, and when Link shows up to spoil the ritual, Ghirahim once more takes matters into his own hands. He again talks down to Link while venting his frustration. Remember, he's planned for this moment for a long time, and as established earlier, he doesn't like it when things don't go according to his plans. At this point, Ghirahim is so angry, so full of rage, that he sets his vanity aside and actually reveals his true form as a sword spirit. He casts off his appearance and attire that he's sported until now. His ego getting the best of him again, he laments that a human would think himself equal to him, and regrets not killing Link sooner, again remarking on his station, maintaining his dignity, and allowing Link to live being a guilty pleasure. Even still, he doesn't just go to battle Link head on and kill him. He still believes himself to be of such greater stature, and still takes so much pleasure and pain that he still makes a game of it, arranging these platforms and devising a very specific way to kill Link, calling this the Endless Plunge. The idea being to continuously throw Link off of these platforms until his broken body reaches the bottom. But this ends up being his own undoing, as Link turns this very concept against him. After some time, he tries again to battle, drawing first his usual saber, then an even larger sword, but he still can't prevail. Ghirahim calls his own defeat here preposterous and laughable, but ultimately, he still can't let go of the notion about humans being lesser, asking, "Boy, what are you?" As if Link couldn't possibly be human if he's this powerful. He just continues to stay in denial about Link's own strength, which is what ultimately leads to his defeat. The truth is that Ghirahim probably could have killed Link right away during that first encounter in Skyview Temple, but his own hubris got in the way. That said, Girahim's ritual is ultimately a success, and Demise does end up being revived. Ghirahim immediately demonstrates his loyalty, saying that the world now belongs not to him, but to his master, then bowing and welcoming his master back. And as Demise retrieves his weapon, pulling the sword out of Ghirahim and absorbing him back into the blade, a process that looks like it should be painful, Ghirahim laughs in pleasure the whole way through, as he knows he'll soon fulfill his purpose, and clearly taking great pleasure in the thought that he'll be wielded in combat again. His purpose is to inflict pain, a weapon without mercy. So what have we learned during these encounters with Ghirahim? Well, for starters, I believe he's pretty much your textbook narcissist. He has a grandiose sense of self-importance, even requesting his enemy to indulge his title of Lord, and believing Link and others to be lesser than himself. This belief and tendency to underestimate his foes is what ultimately ends up being his own undoing. He's incredibly entitled, with any disagreements or setbacks to his planning sending him into murderous rages, and he frequently demeans others, referring to Impa as a goddess-serving dog and calling himself a being of higher station than Link, not to mention dishing some insults here and there. I've heard some people also refer to Ghirahim as being either a sociopath or a psychopath. And given his enjoyment of violence, at a glance this may seem true. He has no regard for others when pursuing his goals. He's perfectly happy to sacrifice as many of his own minions as it takes just to slow Link down during the finale, clearly viewing anybody below him as disposable. However, there is one trait shared with both sociopaths and psychopaths that I believe disqualifies Ghirahim, and that's the inability to form attachments to other people. Given Girahim's fierce, unending loyalty loyalty towards his master, I would say that basically takes both of those off the table. I do, however, strongly believe him to be a sadist. He takes absolute pleasure in bringing pain to others, even stating that it will relieve his stress. Just look at the way he licks his swords here. He's not emotionless either, being prone to outbursts of anger, making him a wonderful foil character to Fi. Both are sword spirits, but where Fi is cold and calculated, Ghirahim is pretty emotional, vain, egotistical, and thinks himself to be of great importance. There is a theory that we may see Ghirahim again, as in the game's final moments when Demise is defeated, his sword vanishes away. Some people think that this is Ghirahim abandoning his master, or that he saw Demise's defeat as an opportunity to usurp the title of Demon King. However, I don't believe this to be the case. I think that in this moment, Ghirahim actually died. I doubt he would ever leave his master, even in the end, just because he is far too loyal. He truly believes it's his purpose to serve as his master's weapon. Otherwise, why else would he spend a millennia trying to revive Demise after his defeat at the hands of Hylia? No, instead he spends his entire life devoted to Demise's revival, something he dedicates himself to wholly by gathering information, devising strategies, doing combat, and setting traps. I believe Ghirahim is the sort that would go down with the ship and would stay by his master to the very end. Ghirahim is one of my favorite characters in the entire Zelda series. He doesn't exactly endure much character development, but this leads to his own demise. Pun intended. In a way, he is actually entirely successful in nearly all of his plans, even managing to exploit time travel to revive his dead master. But really, what I love about him is how well written he is. Nearly all of his dialogue is extremely memorable and carries a ton of weight to it. It's all written with such purpose. He is just so wonderfully sadistic but charming, which makes for a pretty compelling villain. His perception of Link changes gradually to form a pretty personal rivalry with the player, with each encounter causing Ghirahim to perceive Link as a greater threat, as he goes from simply toying with him to seriously trying to kill him. His temperament acts as a great foil to both Link and Fi, and the entire setup makes his defeat in that final battle against him so rewarding and satisfying to do. It's a wonderful payoff that is set up so early in the game, which makes its late game execution all the sweeter. So what do you think of Ghirahim as a villain, or just as a character in the game? We'll be back with more characters to examine soon. Until next time, bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the lovely people who supported me here on Patreon. In particular, those who supported at the cheese tier or higher, which includes Tetra, Brenda, Justin, Callie, Finley, and Grey Mage. Thank you so much for the support, you guys, and I will catch you all next time. Bye-bye.